So I only realised this a few minutes ago, I'm sorry it's only audio, no video. Um, we're living in crazy times, and I think there's a few things that have happened recently that really push the point home, as if other things weren't a factor. But holy crap, I've warned people about this, I've told people what to do, and they won't do it exactly, and it's fucking frustrating. So, for anyone unaware, it's about various things. I think I'll start with the political climate in America at the moment. So obviously, when someone, so to speak, took a shot, it didn't unfortunately do the right thing in the situation, and it, it resulted in what's happening now. And I think obviously you can't say much about this because I don't even know much about the situation myself. I just think that there's a lack of doubt and there's not enough. There's a lot of hesitation. I mean, so a lack of doubt and hesitation that sort of leads up to this sort of thing, and that's one of the greatest weapons. Unfortunately, is not being hesitant and doubting things. It doesn't matter what side you're on in this situation. It all sort of connects, and because people didn't act, they hesitated instead and didn't think about doubting various things. Like, if you think like Trump, for example, if you thought he wouldn't go through with this, then yeah, you're dead wrong, because it can happen, and it fucking sucks. Um, and because it's happened, it's proven the point that people need to just stop hesitating. Start standing up for what's right and start caring about others, because I think there's a lack of that too. It's absolutely ridiculous that we live in these times where people just don't seem to care. And we're living in a time when that needs to happen, because people are getting hurt by it. And it's not necessarily people you love, it's also, it could be people we hate for that matter. And these could be people who generally don't deserve it, like people you disagree with even. And there's a lot that goes into that. But again, at the root of it, it's the lack of doubt and it's the hesitation. And that's what's killing everyone, really. And it's only a matter of time before worse things come along that we can't even comprehend. Like, who's to say there's not World War III? Who's to say that, you know, we can survive anything? Like, there's nothing saying that. Everything's up for debate. Your rights, your livelihoods, hell, even humanity itself. And that's something that's kind of terrifying. And because of that, there's not much that I can really say here. There are things that can be done, but it's just a frustrating, complicated situation, and it's just tearing us all apart, really. And I'm saying this because I'm fed up of the situation and what else has happened since, because believe it or not, other things have happened. I think another thing I'll bring up, because that is important, how people respond to activism. A little history about me, ironically. I picked history as my subject in school because we had a choice of three subjects or something else that's more physical, like engineering. I wish I did engineering looking back on it. But it's crazy times. I picked history in the end because that was the only option that also allowed me to do art, which wasn't actually art. It fucking sucked, and I did design and technology too. But one of the things we've learned in history is about various types of activism. It's only brief for some reason. I think it's probably because of Christian influence in that, really, in a secular school, which fucking sucked. So you weren't allowed to teach much about it. It's more like a middle ground as opposed to actual teaching. But anyway, we learned about various human rights. We learned about slavery actually really early on in school. We learned about World War One in primary school, actually. In secondary school, we learned about World War Two. But I think some of the things that really stuck out to me was probably the human rights aspect of it. And we're even being taught about how grassroots activism essentially is effective. It's disruptive activism, and it worked so well that it rippled and it caused a massive change. And that's what we're kind of lacking nowadays, as well as the acknowledgement of what it is. Like, holy crap, there might even come a point where we're actually killing people as a point of activism, and as much as that's terrifying, in some cases it can be a necessary evil, and it sucks, but that's how it has to be. And ironically, this will probably age pretty well, because that's what's probably going to happen. I can't predict the future with 100% accuracy. I think the more you put out there, the more likely something will come true. That's why you have these weird sort of falsehoods and stuff with people predicting the end of the world. I remember plenty of those when I was a kid. There's a lot to it, and I think one of the stories that stuck out to me was Rosa Parks. He was, I think, advocating for women's rights, if I'm not mistaken. I might be remembering wrong, but that's what I remember anyway. She used to sit on buses where I think men used to sit, and they kept trying to kick her off or something because she was sitting in their place, and she was just advocating for women's rights. I don't think that she didn't move or anything. That's really awesome. That's direct activism, direct action, even, and it's effective. It grabs attention, it gets other people on board, it shows other women that they can stand up for what's right. Like, they may not. What was I gonna say there? Fuck. Yeah, like, they may not be as strong as certain men there, but they can at least be strong, like, mentally as well. And they can fight back that way. Like, intelligence is a tool, it's a weapon as well. And you just have to make use of that as much as you can. And that's something that we're kind of lacking nowadays. I see, like, videos of, like, climate activists blocking roads, and there's even animal rights activism that's sort of more graphic. Like, they go out on the streets, show footage, or even spill blood all over certain places, and you can't disagree with them. At the end of the day, if you're feigning ignorance or you're disagreeing with them, you have to have a very good reason. And because there isn't, that's what's creating the problems. If you look at that and think, God, what a horrible thing to do to the public, you're looking at it wrong. And it's the same with, like, even things that are on the fucking other side of it. Like, think about terrorism, for example, which is far different to that. Terrorism is motivated by either living situations or religious motives or trauma. It's like many different things that can lead to it. And unfortunately, because nobody acknowledges that, because you don't acknowledge it at the root, you end up scraping the surface only for them to come back and grow. Well, that's the problem. Whereas if you acknowledge the problem at the root, it would be more effective. You'll be able to solve more problems and save more lives. It's not rocket science by any means. Though, to be honest, most kids are probably learning rocket science nowadays. It's not complicated, and it's an easy thing to understand. It's when you get into like the details that it can be complicated, but still, the point is there. You look at the root, and when activists are doing these things, think about what's going through their lives, what's going through their minds, not what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, these are people. Humans doing so-called human things. And if you can't acknowledge that, I don't think you have any right to call yourself human. Simple as that. That's like activism. But it's sort of similar in a sense to the next topic I was going to bring up. Probably the last one, actually, now I think about it. Actually, probably the second one. No, they're actually sort of tied together. No, I was going to talk about AI and how I was a big advocate for abolishing it the moment it popped up with like DALL-E and stuff. AI has become very problematic, and I said this years ago. I said it when it first started, when we started hearing AI voices and seeing decent looking AI images. It was a problem. I said this years ago, and there are things that AI can't mimic. They can't mimic human art, they can't mimic mistakes that humans make, or even like improv, for example. That's one of the things that I heard recently from a channel called Young Air. And like AI is not ready yet, is all I can say now. It's not ready for what people think it's fit for. And that's only going to be problematic moving forward. There are creative uses for AI, but at the moment it's not for the layperson, and that's a massive deal. It's because people can pick it up however they want that it becomes a problem. It sort of reminds me of like the spread of information. The internet was great. It used to be, and even though it's a bit sort of like edgy back then, there weren't many problems with it overall. But nowadays you go onto like YouTube and you look at comments and stuff, and it's just filled with bots or just absolute bigotry where essentially nothing's policed anymore and you could do anything you want. Apparently there's even fucking, I don't know if I should say this, it's like porn on YouTube. And it's like not even monitored or anything. It's fucking crazy. But there's a time and a place for it as well, that's the thing. It doesn't need to be on YouTube, and I don't get why people are putting it there. And it's the same with like how I see communities interact with each other, like they make sexual jokes in innuendos, and it's very uncreative and just not the place that should really be discussed unless it's about the thing being discussed. Like r/sex, talk about it there, not on a fucking gaming subreddit. It's just so dumb. Talking about AI, and yeah, like that's the problem. Like people could get their hands on these things because of the spread of information, but that was also turned into a detriment because companies are essentially latching onto it. They're getting all this information, they're reproducing it, and they're making it their own essentially, and probably trying to trademark it so they get royalties and everything. There's a bunch of legal garbage behind it, and it's not a fun topic either. Especially when it can affect even people who don't even think it could affect, like small companies are actually kind of successful overall. It just takes, like for example, a really good artist that sort of makes pottery, I guess, if that's a thing that's still popular. I don't know. you know, they make a good living off it, and suddenly a corporation latches onto that idea, and suddenly they buy out this artist for a reasonable sum of money, and you can't be a fool to turn it down, but there's a consequence to that. It ends up deviating the sort of trivializing actually the quality of that thing, that art, and it gets removed. So the standard becomes whatever it is from the corporation that bought it. And as much as you can live happy with a bunch of fucking money, I don't think you can have a good impact on the world, and that's what we need to be thinking about more. That's what I see lacking a lot nowadays too. Think about how you can have a good impact on the world. Because it is a scary place, but at the same time it's fascinating, and people don't seem to care enough to see it be a better place. And this is even people who generally want to see it better, or whose rights are affected. You know, you don't do anything by necessarily doing what I do, which is talking on the internet, and supposedly to no one at the moment, but it could blow up, I don't know. But getting out there, being actually using disruptive activism and not hesitating and doubting things, that can help. And in the case of AI, I didn't hesitate when I first saw it, because I'm an artist myself, sort of, and I make music too. And I'm a gamer as well, and those are three big things to me that matter in my life, and they could be completely overrun by AI, which isn't even good enough at it, and which probably won't even replace it, even in like the next decade. And because it's becoming the standard, I noticed back then when it was the standard, people were saying it's not going to go away. People were saying it's inevitable, and I'm sitting here saying you don't know until you try, and nobody can respond to that. Yeah, and also like the proof. What if it is inevitable? Then how do you prove that? Like that's a question that requires a simple answer. You know, if it is inevitable, how? And that just makes no sense. Like, it's not really back to Trump in a sense. Like, back when he was first president, like nobody believed that he would actually be able to go through with like some of his plans or whatever. And people were just thinking, oh, he's not doing anything, he's just an idiot. And suddenly, no, he is. He's going through these plans. And this is because people didn't stand up to him, not enough people, for that matter. But yeah, like AI and stuff, it's the same thing. Not enough people are standing up to it, and because corporations are trying to force it on us, it's become problematic, and you can't avoid it. Do I have a Copilot on here? No, luckily not. Okay, I used a few Microsoft related things, and you can disable Copilot for the most part. Not on everything, it seems, but you can for the most part avoid it. And that's good, but the problem is we don't need fucking AI to be on everything. And in the end, what's going to happen though, as well, in sort of a good way, is people will start realising it's shit and then move to something else that doesn't have it. So that's also a corporate opportunity which has its downsides, but it's far less than everything being AI. And this sort of reminds me of like the technology thing now. Aside of that, for like the RTX 50 series, technology is also progressing too fast, the same way information spreads too much. Technology progresses too fast, and this is for good and for worse. Even though we probably need to find out a plan to get off this planet, that's one thing we need to prioritise. Corporations are ruining it by having, like, the planet's going to have a short lifespan because of their garbage, if it's AI or new hardware, and that's just going to fill trenches and stuff and wherever they dump stuff. And that's not good for the planet, and it's not good for us either. And there's so much technology out there that even we can get our hands on. Like, there's probably a walking robot out there, like those fucking weird ones we used to see in like the 2010s. They probably exist a lot more now than what they used to, and it's terrifying. As fascinating as technology is, it's going to be our downfall as well. And that's something else that needs to stop. Like, I've even started watching like car videos on YouTube where there's this guy showing us around these old cars from like 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And they don't have all these fucking features in them. Like, most of them don't have a sat nav that's built in. Most of them don't even have bloody Bluetooth, and it's great in a sense. There's a lot of good things about those cars, and apparently efficiency is one of them, but I could be wrong. You know, think about the climate crisis. As much as we need to address that, there are problems with how we addressed it. And yeah, I do have doubts about how, for example, electric cars will integrate into the world. Because if they have to be produced via means of like fossil fuels, then that sort of offsets the entire reason. Like, that's the crazy thing about it. And until we can find a solution that isn't gonna fuck up our planet, then I don't know what to do about it, essentially. And this is why people need to speak up and not hesitate, or not even beat around the bush, for example. You know, if we can get like electric bikes, cycles, what do you call it? Electric bike? Bicycle, that's it. That's what Americans call it. I was trying to think. So we just call it bikes in the UK, and that's confusing because we also call electric bikes bikes. It makes no sense. But yeah, we need like dedicated places for this, like a dedicated road for bikes that will not only be safe but also get you to places fast for less efficiency and also provide exercise and sunlight. That'd be great. You know, the less cars on the road, the better. And that's something I feel like not enough people speak about. And I'd definitely take up cycling if they did that. You know, if there was a way to cycle from here to my hometown in like under 20 minutes, I'd do that. It's no problem. I wouldn't want to be out there for longer. The point is that I can actually move around and it'd be efficient. Like, even trains, for example, are just better than cars. We just need like safer trains as well as more efficient ones. Yeah, I suppose there's another thing as well. We lose things in translation too. Yeah, because people are going in cars more, we end up seeing less people sort of happy because they're not exercising as much, and that's apparently another problem. I think it affects some people, it doesn't affect others. I've noticed it myself. I don't exercise that much, and I'm still reasonably happy. I rarely feel depressed or anything, or stressed. I do feel stressed, but it's not as bad like as when I exercise, because for some reason it peaks at that point. I don't know why stress and exercise seem to go hand in hand for me, but it probably won't for others, and that's something worth acknowledging. The point is that there's also no simple solution, and this is why I said people need to not hesitate and stand up. It's because people hesitate, it just happens. I see it with people thinking like, I was supposed to about this on Universe, whatever, Mastodon. on the vegan algorithm, and someone was basically talking about how people take these anti-capitalist stances and don't follow through with it. So they're essentially lying. And well, it's a double standard technically. As I said to the post, I'm not an anti-capitalist, I'm just a disliker of it, and I don't really see myself as a perfect person, and that's what more people should be saying. And it's also the fact that people need to be actually following through with their words and trying to lead by example. You know, this is why I'm such an unusual person. I don't look at new things, new arguments, and think, oh, I believe that. I have to think about them. And that's something I did think about, like the anti-capitalist stance. It's like, okay, some of it's unavoidable, but some of it isn't. Some of it is, I mean. And you can make changes here and there. So as much as I hate capitalism, I'm still trying to make a change. And there's also like a lot of little sub areas too, like human rights, human biology, whatever, sociology. I think there's other things about that sort of goes hand in hand. Yeah, like that's the point really. Just lead by example. You know, if you're saying, I don't like how animals get killed in the animal industry, I don't like how they're exploited, even though exploitation is the reason that they're, then you have to take a stand. You have to do what's right. Simple as that. It's really not hard to figure out. And it also takes honesty as well. And there is strength in that. I've found that since I've been honest, I've been more calm and more level-minded, and people actually compliment me on that a lot. Whenever I speak to them personally anyway, they seem to think that I'm level-minded, and that's the greatest compliment I could get. I think. I don't think of any others I like. I don't really like compliments. But when people acknowledge that I seem to be doing the right thing anyway, it does leave me with a bit of confidence when I'm actually lacking a lot of confidence myself. I forgot what I was going to talk about. ADHD moment. Great. Yeah. Yeah, leading by example. I can't remember. But the point still stands, so you need to make those changes. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to talk about. Thanks for listening anyway. That's 30 minutes, that's Jesus. Yeah. It's a pretty important topic to me, and that's why I'm making this essentially. I don't think there's anything more we're talking about here necessarily. I've never claimed to be a discussion channel, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter, and it's something important. Like, for example, if people are going to shut down games and government, then that'd be something I have to talk about, because I'm a fucking gamer. And if, again, it's like, don't hesitate, you have to do it. And that's what I do with AI, it's what I've done in the past with you, like, more personal issues, like trauma, and even like more controversial issues, which I won't go into here, but there are videos about that. Yeah. Thanks for listening, and I'll see everyone in another video.